What is going on, people of YouTube? We're back here again, Pass the Prop NFL edition. We don't usually go back-to-back days, but today we're back. Obviously, I had basketball stuff yesterday, kind of a special show on our Tuesday. Wednesday, we're back to regular scheduled programming here. Wednesday, Friday, are normal days for us to go live here for you guys in NFL. And before we get into everything that I talked to you, Stu, remember, these are for Thursday, Friday games only, guys. I know we got a lot of bets. Don't worry. We're going to have a ton of them, too. Keep those for Friday. Anything you got for Wednesday or for Thursday and Friday football, we'll be ready for. Stu, how we doing, man?
I'm doing good. Of course, right when the NFL season starts, I have some construction going. That's why I'm in a different place than yesterday. So if there is any background noise, I do apologize for that. Do our best to limit it, but it is what it is. Nothing could stop us from hopping on here live, obviously, and talking some NFL player props. Because like you said, we're here. We got a great Thursday game. We got a great Friday game. The NFL does a really good job of giving us those awesome, intriguing games to start out the season. And I'm super excited to finally drop in my first bet of the season. We did a whole hour 17 show yesterday, and I didn't even promo my Discord as well. So go follow in 4 for 4 if you want all those bets first. I'm bad at marketing, but we're going to get out in front of it earlier right here. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the worst thing either. Like, I don't like when people kind of try to sell things down my throat on everything and it's in there. But, I mean, we do the work. A lot of the stuff that you're going to find isn't going to be free because we're doing how much hours of stuff for this. So all those other things haven't behind the paywall. Obviously, we're trying to give you guys. I mean, we're both behind a paywall for some of our stuff, but we're here 3 times a week to try to give you guys the free stuff as well, to make sure that you guys can pop here and still get a chance and hear what we're going to go through. Because my biggest thing too, with the 20 of you guys in here in these first couple minutes, just want to kind of get these out here, is if you guys ask us a question, or I mean, even if you ask anybody else in the industry a question, they should be able to answer why they're doing it. You know what I mean? Like, you could just throw out volume on volume on volume out there and throw like 15 bets, and you can throw your long shots and all this stuff, and all it takes is you to hit one, and everybody just thinks the world is ending and you're the best ever. That's really what we're in the space now, where it's just long shots galore, and if you hit one, everybody flocks to you. But I mean, this is year 4 for us. I mean, we have not been super flashy in how we do it, but hey, we've been winning a lot of bets and we've been winning a lot of money here. So I'm hoping you guys are ready for year 4, and hopefully we'll be able to make you guys more money this year.
100%. Yeah. No, I mean, it's so exciting to finally be here. Like, I can't overstate it enough. We're a couple days away from real NFL football, right? Not college football's okay, preseason, whatever, but nothing beats this. And we're finally here. And of course, I've got some very random bets to take advantage of it.
Yeah, I finished up my last fantasy draft last night. I have 3 A+ from Yahoo on my report card, which I don't like, because when they give you the A+, nothing ever goes well. Like last year, I get to flex that I had 3 of the top 8 picks this year on my team in CD, Bijan, and Amon-Ra. I had all 3 of them. And, of course, I lose my quarterback like the 2 weeks before the fantasy playoffs in Joe Burrow. So that's how quick everything can go downhill, and I had an A+ last year. So those don't mean much. I'm just ready for it to be right on the field and ready to score and ready to get some points, ready for my best balls to start. It's exciting. It's a fun time of the year here. We got 25 of you guys in here in the first couple minutes. Again, if you guys please hit the like button, I'll try to keep track of what we're at for the likes. I'm hoping we can get 20, 30 by the time the show ends. So hopefully you guys are in here, and I think that's a realistic goal here. But we appreciate all you guys popping in and joining us early here. We got Flan Fam in the chat. Again, drop stuff in the chat if you got questions. Like I said, there's a lot of bets to be had here for these first couple games. And I guess we can just get started, Stu. I guess we can kind of talk the games. I think we have a bet in each one. And I will let you take us away here to talk about the Chiefs and the Ravens to start us off.
Yeah, I mean, right now we're seeing mostly a 3-point spread across the board, with the Chiefs obviously as the favorites, the returning Super Bowl champions. There's a lot of talk about them even getting better this season. That's kind of a common narrative when you read about it a little bit. I'm not sure I necessarily believe that to be true, just because I think it shows a little bit of a fundamental misunderstanding of why the Chiefs were so good last year. And that's because of their defense, right? They were fantastic on defense. Obviously, a flashy playoff run kind of makes people forget that. But if you remember, there were a lot of questions going into the playoffs about the Chiefs offense. So now they've added Hollywood Brown, who obviously is now out with injury, and they drafted Xavier Worthy. And I think that's leading a lot of people to get very excited about them on the offensive side of the ball. But also important to remember, they lost Snead, right? Who was one of the best corners in the league. They lost Gay as well. Like, they've lost some real defensive contributors to this team. So I just want to kind of squash that narrative that I think they're going to come out better than last year. Because you got to remember, while they have gone better on offense, they also have lost some corresponding pieces on defense. That being said, a guy like McDuffie, who was great last season, I expect to step up and play very well again. We saw him mostly in the slot last year. I think he'll probably go back and forth a little bit more, but I think that'll be a huge matchup to look for week one with a guy like, say, Flowers, maybe even create some more opportunities on the outside for a guy like Rashad Bateman. So in this game, personally, I think a lot of it comes down to the Ravens and how much you trust them to establish the run. Last year, they came out very pass heavy with a new offensive coordinator. It went okay. I don't think that's their identity. I think we see them with the signing of Derrick Henry, especially, go back to trusting the run. The question that everyone has to answer, and I think it's actually essential to both of these two games with Saquon and Derrick Henry coming over, is what are these guys still giving you at this point in their career? I'm curious what you have to say on it. But me personally, I'm still very tentative of trusting Derrick Henry week one off the bat for this team to kind of have a revitalized rushing offense. So that being said, I do like the Chiefs in this game. If I did have to pick a side, I think the -3 is probably the side that I would end up going with. But I think a lot of it really falls down to Derrick Henry. Can he establish the run? Can they take advantage of the gravity that he creates after that? And I'm kind of curious what you have to say about that as well.
Yeah, and I think for me, it's kind of tough because you're going to Arrowhead in your first week, right? Like, this is not a spot that you really want to go to, right? I mean, this is going to be electric, man. It's going to be electric. And it's tough because the questions you just had on the Ravens, you don't have that on the offensive side for the Chiefs. Like,
Yep.
I mean, you look at Pacheco, he's a second-round pick in fantasy drafts right now. Mahomes is second off the board behind Allen only, and that's for the rushing upside, right? Kelsey, first tight end off the board in all of our stuff, whether it be in best ball or fantasy drafts, right? So, I mean, those are just guys that have been in the system. They're ready to go. I think obviously everybody's looking at Pacheco taking that step forward. I know CEH, I think, is out now for some random reason. I don't know what it's for. But I see him kind of taking that step forward too. My tough thing here is when you look at the Chiefs, they were, I believe, and I'm looking at it to confirm, they were the fourth highest behind Dallas, Buffalo, and Miami, right, in home first half scoring. If the Chiefs get up in this game, bro, it's done. I am not trusting this this team that's now kind of built to punch it down your throat. And the Ravens, if they're getting down, they're averaging 16 points a game last year, this Chiefs team. And you could say that this offense is better. And I think a lot of people would say it's better just with the additions that they have. You're filling with like Scantling as your number 2. And now you get to bring in a guy who was an absolute monster at Texas, right? So it's like it's tough for me to want to bet the Ravens. Obviously, if you're betting the Ravens, I'd probably bet the under just because I think it's just going to be a punch you in the face type of game. But with the Chiefs in Arrowhead, I probably would lean the Chiefs. If it was in Baltimore, I probably have a different thought. But you're going to a place where these guys have run the same system for how long? Mahomes has been in the same system, ready to go. And I mean, just Kelsey is just such a rock, dude. It's just every single time he's there, he just gets the job done. He makes every big play for you. And I think, yeah, you're starting to see Pacheco start to kind of get his feet under him, right? I think he would have gone probably higher in these drafts if he didn't get hurt with that shoulder injury at the end of the year, because his numbers would have been absurd, right? Yeah. It would have been crazy. So I think I would lean the Chiefs as well. If you do lean the Ravens, I probably, like I said, would lean the under. I think the under is probably the spot I would look at if I had to bet anything here, just because it's the first game of the season. I think we kind of get a little bit of rust. With 46.5, I think that is quite a few points, especially with both defenses playing a little bit better. But I kind of have to lean with the Chiefs in this one just because I trust a little bit more Mahomes in this spot, especially at home.
Yep. But it's going to be a good one. Like we said, obviously it's going to be a banger. It sounds like both of us do lean the Chiefs right here. And yeah, I honestly don't even mind the under no matter who wins, but it's Patrick Mahomes at the end of the day. Like you said, Worthy is so explosive. Like there could be potential for the Chiefs to, if they do get the lead, to kind of run it up, because I'm with you. I love Pacheco. I think he the value probably disappeared by now in terms of drafts, but I mean that's a guy that all offseason they talked about, not only first and second down, but also that pass catching usage. And I know P Ryan was added as well, but I think I'm just a little bit less intimidated than him or by him than most of the consensus, because I think Pacheco has a monster season this year, and I am looking for ways to get exposed to him in this game for sure.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, we got 30 of you guys in here. Might as well start off with Stu's first pick of the year on the NFL spots. I'll kick it over to you. I have a bet in the next game, so I'll kind of take that one a little bit more because my Packers are in action. But let's do it, dude.
Sounds good. We're here, baby. We're rolling with, drum roll please, Justin Watson over 13.5 receiving yards at -110 as our first play of the year. Kind of falling in line last season. Josh Reynolds was my first release of the year as the wide receiver 3 for the Lions. So we're sticking with that theme of wide receiver 3s right here. And I think Watson's line just in general is undervalued right now. When you look at the preseason usage, he played over 90% of snaps with the starters, which is exactly what you want to see. No more Hollywood Brown, right? This team, or sorry, not no more Hollywood Brown. He was brought in, but he's not going to be playing for the first 4 weeks, right? We know he's going to be out of there. They did add Xavier Worthy, another downfield threat, a guy that I think is very good. But I also am not really in the business of immediately trusting these high variance week 1 rookies, right? I think Worthy actually does have a good game, and I would not say a single bad thing about anyone playing that longest reception prop. I think that one stuck out to both of us when we were looking at it. But it's important to acknowledge snaps, volume, who's going to be out there the most. And seeing obviously that preseason usage was good, but Reed has always stuck with his guys. That is a very big consistent with him over the past couple of years. And if you go through and read some of that coach speak, he was saying that even when Hollywood is back, we're still going to be seeing plenty of Justin Watson. And that really does line up with what we saw last year as well, where he went over this number in 14 of 21 games, including against the Ravens. For me, what I like the most about this, Justin Watson led all receivers in the NFL last year with a 17.5 air yards per attempt. That means the average pass to Justin Watson went 17 yards in the air, not even counting yak or anything else like that. He was a downfield weapon. He was the guy that Mahomes loved targeting in that intermediate to deep range. And I think that's a perfect way to take advantage of this Ravens defense, especially with Kyle Hamilton tasked with the tough, assignment of defending Travis Kelce all game, right? I think Hamilton's one of the best safeties in the league, but that's going to be a truly menacing matchup, and he's going to obviously have to be focused on that 24/7. They also do have a great linebacker in Roquan. I think it's one of those teams where I think they're going to be great at limiting the middle of the field, but when you go to the outside weapons, when you go to these deeper targets, I think that's something that Watson obviously excels in, and I think he's going to get an opportunity to do it. The other thing, Mike McDonald, he's gone. He's one of the most hyped up defensive minds in the league. That landed him an immediate head coaching job in Seattle. The thing that he was known for above else, besides kind of re-engaging a kind of middle of the pack Ravens defense, was his ability to get pressure on quarterbacks without blitzing. That's one of the biggest things in the NFL with getting to these elite quarterbacks like Patrick Mahomes, because when you show them blitz and when you blitz aggressively, they're good enough to take advantage of it. So these disguised blitzes, these creative pressures, are what McDonald, that was his calling card last year. And I think if they take a step back, which I think it's only natural to project with a new defensive coordinator, some turnover, losing some of their best players like Geno Stone, Patrick Queen, and Jadeveon Clowney, I think it's only natural that we see a little bit of a step back in that department. And what I think that means is I think we get an opportunity to see these more time in the pocket for a guy like Patrick Mahomes, who's going to be able to hit these deep downfield weapons like Justin Watson. So we only need one catch right here. He's a guy that's going to be playing a heavy wide receiver 3 role. It's not the sexiest pick in the world, but I probably would have lined him around 17 or 18 because I think that's the average target range we're going to see once again this season. And I think it's just an undervalued line of 13.5. So I know it's not the sexiest thing in the world, but we're going with Justin Watson over 13.5 receiving yards to start the season.
Yeah, and this is like a perfect ladder spot for you guys if you guys are long shot guys, just because he will probably have 25-yard catches if he does get a catch, right? So, and for me, I have a bet on Kelce receptions. I posted that already on Action over there. And the reason why I posted that is because I agree exactly what you said with McDonald going. I think they're going to have to blitz. I think they're going to have to send it, dude. And if you're going to send it, then it's just like security blanket underneath. But I think the start of the game is exactly how you started. I think you hit this in the first quarter. I think whether it's Watson or whether it's Worthy, one of those guys is getting a deep ball. And Mahomes obviously throws a fantastic deep ball. So you're going to want to have one of those guys. And for you to bet on Worthy, you're going to have to pay another 40, 50-yard price tag. And they're both going to kind of be doing the same thing early on today in that game. So I definitely like the value of this spot. But that's also – I love that you brought up McDonald because I think that was a big reason why I wanted to bet on Kelce is because I think they're going to have to send the blitz. And if I'm getting one-on-one coverage, I don't care who it is. Mahomes has played long enough with Kelce that he's just going to throw that shit right to where he needs it to be. Whether he gets 6 catches for 50 yards, it's just those first dude with third downs, he's just so damn fucking good, man. He's so good. And obviously, I want to see some deep balls here. And obviously, when you're in Arrowhead, I think the fans want to see that early in the season too. That little deep ball and let Patrick Mahomes go. Especially after we talked about Pacheco kind of starting off, just running up the middle. You get that play action fake. You know who they're sending down there. So love the spot. I think that it's kind of absurd to see a 13.5 on a guy who's probably running 70, 80% routes.
Exactly.
It's tough to want to fade that, especially we got Mahomes at quarterback.
And once again, not just running 70% or 80% of routes with Mahomes as quarterback, but then also averaging 17 air yards per attempt last year. Like I would have played longest reception in almost any other circumstance if this line wasn't just so low, right? It's 10.5 regularly, 13.5. I'll pay that extra 2 yards just in case we get a screen or something like that. So definitely with you. Definitely love this look. I'm excited to be back in another wide receiver 3 to start the season.
Beautiful. Let's head on over to the game you guys want to talk about, right? My Packers are taking on the good old Philadelphia Eagles. I had a nice little beef with the Eagles last year because everybody thought they were the best team in the history of the universe. We have a lot of Eagles fans who pop in here. Honestly, it's week 1 in Brazil. Whatever. It's just – I wish it was like a home game for someone. I understand they're trying to get it out there, and there's a lot of fans for both sides, and the Packers are probably one of the most international teams out there just because, I don't know, every time I go somewhere, they always either say they're Chiefs fans or Packers fans just because. Now that Tom Brady's not in the league. So it's tough for me to get super hyped about it with it being out there. But obviously, I told you guys I will be at a rehearsal walkthrough for a wedding that I'm in on Saturday. And obviously the game is on at 7, so I'll be able to watch it. I told him we got to hustle, bro. He's a Packer fan too, so we're going to be moving through it, but I'll kind of walk through the front part of it. I'll get your takes too, and obviously I got a lot to say. I'm a homer though. You guys know that, but obviously I don't make homer picks, but I'm really liking where the Packers are at this year, and it looks like the public's liking them too. They're starting to move them down. They were at +3, 3.5, down to 2.5 today on DraftKings. We're seeing a 49 total. That one keeps getting steamed up. Packers sitting at +114 money line, starting to come down a little bit, Stu. We always talk about the 4 sides of the game. If you have to talk the spread or the total, is there one spot that you would think if we had to? Obviously, we're a prop betting show, but is there a spot you would kind of want to target here on one of those 4 sides, whether it be the Eagles, Packers, or the over-under?
Yeah, I almost feel like it would have to be the under, just because I feel like I've had a lot of success betting unders with these international games, right? There's always that kind of weird vibe. It always feels like these are the slowest starters. I did see people collected some data on that. I don't have it off the top of my head, but these international games, especially in the first half, do heavily kind of skew to the unders. Obviously, combine that with a little bit of rust. It's guys' first games of the year. And now we also have an Eagles team that has a very new coaching staff, right? A lot of similar players coming back, but obviously very new coaching on both sides of the ball. For me, it's very similar to last game. I don't know if I'm there with Saquon like everybody else. I'm probably not going to play as under week 1, but rushing is very close to me, just because a lot of people are kind of assuming that the Packers are going to be equally terrible rushing the ball. But we got to remember, Joe Barry was a very specific kind of defensive coordinator, and he's no longer there, right? And I was reading a lot about the new guy that's coming in to fill him. It sounds like we're going to see a lot more man coverage. We're going to see him trusting those outside corners a little bit more one-on-one, and we're actually going to spend a little bit more effort on trying to stop the run. When you just look at the D-line alone for both teams, they're very strong, honestly. But the Packers, I think, are a little bit underrated as well. So what I see is a kind of a little slower starting game. I think it picks up as we go. I don't really have a strong take on who I think is going to win, to be completely honest. I do have some Eagles futures. Them to win the Super Bowl was the first bet I actually made when I was doing my Super Bowl reaction show last year with Odds Trader at the very end. So that was like, I locked that in immediately. But I don't, there's going to be some adjustments when you switch to a guy like Moore, who's a well-known offensive coordinator. He's going to ask Hurts to play in the shotgun more than he's ever done before. I think there's going to be some bumps along the road. So I could very easily see a Packers kind of upset win in week 1, but I do think it's going to be an extremely close competitive game. Like, I think the last game, there's some worries that, like you said, if the Chiefs get ahead, it could actually get a little bit ugly. I think this is going to be a battle through 4 quarters.
Yeah, I actually really like the Packers secondary this year. I actually am a very big fan of them. I do like that we're talking about a little bit more man, especially, dude. I'm not gonna lie, dude. I know there's been a lot of big free agents moving around and like quarterbacks, but like Isaiah McDuffie bringing over there, Xavier McKinney, both of those dudes are studs, bro. Like they're gonna fit really well. Obviously, Jair. I think Jair gets up for these games more than others just because he does have a guy that will talk and will be right in his face. And if he gets cooked, everybody's going to talk about it, right? And that's the thing is, I almost like him when he's playing Justin Jefferson, when he's got these dudes that are going to be up in his face. And I do like the spot for the Packers. I don't know if I'm going to bet them just because that's a little bit too homer for me. But I don't want to bet them on this one. If I'm going to, it's not going to be like an official play or anything. It's just going to be me betting them on my own. But I like the secondary. I think that the front line is a lot better than people give them credit for. I like that you brought it up. Preston Smith has been awesome. Kenny Clark has been awesome. Rashawn Gary has been awesome. I do really like the offensive line for the Eagles. I just think that it's a pretty good matchup across the board here. Obviously, the Packers did get beat deep, more of like the across the middle type of spot. So if I would bet anything on the Eagles side, I don't mind like tight ends against the Packers. They're usually pretty decent. Especially like a guy like Goddard who doesn't run deep routes, but just like the short middle ones. I'm a big fan of Quay Walker tackles always. I'll probably wait a couple weeks before I start betting defensive props, but I really like this Packers defense. I don't mind the under look. It's just the Eagles make so many big plays. It's just really tough for me to think that we're not going to see that in this game. But I do like to talk about unders on Saquon. I think that's a good look because I think that you need to stop the run. Literally, everybody hates Joe Barry in Green Bay more than anybody ever because the dude they would just run the whole game. And you have a good secondary. Fucking let them go one-on-one, dude. Like, let them try it. And I think that we're going to see a little more blitz, a little bit more like that, like trying to force it out of their hands quicker. My biggest issue is just Jalen Hurts rushing, right? That's where I'm worried because the Packers, I don't know what the numbers say, but I've watched every Packer game probably, I don't even know how long. Every time there's a guy that's just a little bit more athletic from the quarterback position, they just extend those third down plays and extend those drives and just make it a little bit tougher. So I do like the under. I do think they're going to be a lot more longer drives, sustained drives. For me, I'm going to be going over to Jordan Love, over 22.5 completions at minus 120. Dude, the weapons on this team are awesome. And they're all so young, right? They're all young dudes, all growing up with Love in this spot. I do like the tight end looks as well. I'm a big fan of Musgrave and Kraft. Obviously, Kraft a little bit more towards the running game. Obviously, Josh Jacobs getting enough love all over the place because he's been a stud already. But I think we're going to see a little bit more to the outsides, right? The Packers should be trying to not go up the middle with Jacobs because obviously we talk about the Eagles like Jalen Carter, man. Like that dude is a freak. That dude's huge. The dude's crazy. They got good linebacker core. The front seven, I think they said they're switching over with the new defensive guy there as well. So I really like Jordan Love on these underneath ones. Obviously, he does take a lot of chances deep. But what I do like is the Eagles do get pressure, right? They are able to get pressure on quarterbacks. And for me, I looked at the last year, right? The end of last year, those last like 6 games where Jordan Love like turned up, right? Where he started showing out. It is against teams that put good pressure on guys. Minnesota got good pressure on guys. He had 24 completions there. You look against the Giants, right? Kayvon Thibodeau was all over the place against the Packers. 25 completions in that one because there was a little more dink and dunk, right? He only had a 5.6 average in that game, right? Go against the Bears. It was a low-scoring game, 27 completions in that one, right? They're able to get pressure on them. Again, you go to the Lions, 22, the Chiefs, 25, right? Those guys that have the ability to get pressure on them, LaFleur is doing a great job. He's doing a great job with what he's got. And I think we see a little bit more of the screen game with Jacobs. I think we see a little bit more of those pop passes to Reed. Those are free completions. They're free. They're just dump downs. And I really like Love and how accurate he's been. I mean, there's just so many weapons there. Like I said, Dobbs is going in pretty high. He's a top 100 pick in draft. Reed's top 70. You're seeing Musgrave get a little bit more push here lately. And then obviously you got Christian Watson there as well. So a lot of weapons, but he's done a really good job of giving guys completable passes, right? Close that they can make plays on. And just Reed and Jacobs alone, I think, are going to help us out a ton here on these underneath ones. But he's going to have to get it out a lot quicker than I think people realize. I think the Eagles defense is going to get some pressure on him.
Yeah, I agree. I like Jordan Love a lot. We were talking before the show. I think his 225 and half or 225 passing yards is a really good parlay piece as well when you're just talking about like a floor outcome. Because like you said, I don't think there's really a way that they go through this game without having to pass a decent ton. Obviously, Jacobs is good. I really like the Jacobs addition to the team. Honestly, I'm a big Josh Jacobs fan. It kind of feels like people forget how good he's been at times over these last couple of years. And now he's probably in line to be the first bell cow LaFleur's had in maybe 4 or 5 years, right? They really haven't kind of done anything like that. So I think him in the receiving game is something very underrated, right? His receptions have been very tempting to me. And then Jayden Reed, another guy that his receptions have been very, very tempting to me. One of the best slot guys in the league last year. I believe he finished 18th in yards after catch. Like, he's got a lot of good skills to him. I've been high on him since his Michigan State days, obviously. So he's a guy that I think maybe takes a leap forward, someone that I'm pretty close. I think I'll probably have like a half unit on his receptions. I think that's something. But when I'm looking at all these guys and I'm seeing multiple different targets I like for the receptions, that's when you know it's probably a good time to look at the quarterback. And I'll say this is probably the first time healthy in over a year, and hopefully maybe first of many, but that Christian Watson and Dobbs are in there at the same time. We got to remember a lot of these stats with Love, where he's crushing these numbers, where he's playing really well, or with Wicks and Bo Melton, who are two more downfield targets, playing very well in their kind of absence. So now that we have a fully healthy team, if you're talking about ladders for this week, I think Christian Watson's one of the most tempting guys. I'm going to play the Watson ladder, guys. Justin Watson, Christian Watson. Give me like 50 yards and 80 yards. I'm 100% playing that, because Christian Watson, you guys got to remember, fantastic talent, huge build. The opportunities are going to be there. It's just, one, can he catch the ball? He's had drop problems his whole career. And two, can he play enough snaps to actually, cash his numbers? So rather than playing, a 39, whatever receiving yards, I want the volume. I want the high variance one. Give me the long shot, because I think if he does have 40 yards, it's likely he has a very good game in this one. And you mentioned it briefly, Dobbs. I think he's a little underrated as well. I saw he's dealing with a hand contusion, but in practice, it looks like it's just going to be a pain tolerance thing. He said he's able to do everything he wanted to. So I think Dobbs should be ready to go. And then final thing, you didn't even mention it, but Musgrave, little bit underrated at this point, I think, honestly. I don't think I'm going to fire on any of his props yet, but that's a very good pass catching target over the middle. He ended the season a little injured last year, so I think that overshadows the start. And also, there are just so many good young tight ends that you're not seeing the buzz as much. But I think Musgrave is kind of a sleeper, very good target on that team. So I like it. I like the exposure to Jordan Love. I think he has another very good season. I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, no, and I always talk Musgrave because I love him. He did really well for me at the end of last year when I started grabbing some props on him. My thing is the Packers can run a 2 tight end set and be fine, right? They can run you 5 wide receiver sets and be fine, right? It's just like Wick's going to be probably the 4th option here. He's shown at the end of last year he was able to be a number 2, right? So always love the free completions on the fake play action spot, tight end run the right around with them. Jordan Love just flips that thing down there, man. It's poetry, man. And again, Eagles do start pretty well, right? I mean, they are a pretty good team. In the first half, they were, I think, 12th in first half scoring last year. So again, just if the Eagles are able to get out to a lead, I like that LaFleur is able to, come up with good designs to get easy completions. And Jordan Love has done a really good job of staying ahead of the sticks and not taking as many sacks. So I think that's going to be important as well. So really like Jordan Love in this spot. And let's get a quick recap here, Stu, and we'll get it rolling, huh?
Sounds good. Do we want to do any touchdown combo? If you guys are new to the show, or normally it's our Friday show. We do a little touchdown parlay together. I don't know if there's anything that's sticking out to you, but for me, I went with Justin Watson, not Christian Watson, Justin Watson. Probably should have clarified that in the beginning, but you would have realized it when you went to your sports book. Over 13.5 receiving yards at -110. I'd play that up to 15.5.
I'll be on Jordan Love over 22.5 completions at -120. Yes, we can do a long shot. We can do a touchdown parlay here. Right now, usually we do it after the recap here. What are you rolling with? Who do you got?
I'm looking through right now, and there's a guy that in each game, honestly, I think Mark Andrews feels a little undervalued to me, just across the board. I know if you're a DraftKings guy or whatever, you've been seeing that injury designation all offseason. But if this Ravens team is going to put together a good performance, I think he's such a big part of that, right? Like such a huge part of that. I mean, we talked about Henry earlier, but he's the number one safety blanket. And I see a lot of likely love, right? I see a lot of people saying more 2 tight end sets this year. I could definitely see that. But right now he's 188 on Caesars. It looks like that's the best price in market. I think we're probably looking at a guy that's normally, 125 to 140 most of the season. So I think we're getting a little bit of a bonus on that. I guess the negative might be just not being fully healthy. That might be what people are worried about. But I feel very good about Andrews kind of coming out with a little bit of a splash this year.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be chalk and just take Josh Jacobs at +120, +115. If I'm using DraftKings to combine right now, it's +448. If you want to try FanDuel here, Stu, check that out.
478 on FanDuel.
What is it?
478 on FanDuel.
Nice. I think that's pretty good value for what they're going to be used for in the red zone. Again, no A.J. Dillon. Josh Jacobs probably will be running about 70-80% of the touches for the running back position. And a lot of the times, I think they're going to play without a running back. I think a lot of the times they're going to be going empty sets just because they are, like, for us, Marshawn Lloyd or even our other, Emmanuel Wilson, having both of those guys, right? Having both of those guys aren't running short yardage. I don't even think Lloyd is playing in this first game, if I don't remember correctly. So you don't really have that vulture at A.J. Dillon to come for a 1-yard carry. Josh Jacobs is phenomenal in between the tackles on those short yard carries. +115, man, it's crazy to me. I thought he'd be minus with how much he's going to get and what the team total is for the Packers, especially with Love only at, I think it's 1.5 touchdowns to like -130 or 40. Man, I think we're seeing Jacobs get in the end zone at +100. So almost 5-1 on probably the number one red zone threat for the Ravens, and I would say the number one guy for the Packers here, 5-1. I feel like we could definitely do a lot worse.
I think it's, like you said, it's important to remember. You went from a guy like A.J. Dillon, who they specifically brought in for short yardage runs, to Emmanuel Wilson, who's a scat back, right? He's a third down pass catcher. He is not a full-time running back. That's not how he's going to be utilized at all. So when we get to those red zone snaps, it is going to be Jacobs out there. And I'm curious what Jordan Love's touchdown prop is as well, if we kind of do talk about that, because that could be a little interesting. Not that he's it's not as good as it should be. It's $650. That's the best price in market.
I would need 10-1, bro.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'd want 8-1 or better. So, I do love quarterback rushing touchdowns on primetime. I can't resist doing it. We see it so much with the most unexpected guys out there, but that's fair. And yeah, I think I agree with you, Jacobs, and I think even in the other game, Pacheco, both of those guys being plus money to score touchdowns was a little bit surprising to me. And we're normally going to have a little bit more exciting long shots, a little bit, better odds, obviously. But right here, a little impromptu first game touchdown parlay right here with two guys that both of us, feel very good about.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We got our touchdown parlay out there. We got our 2 plays already for the show. Excited. We're back here again for year 4 of Past the Prop. It feels it's been going along forever, man. So it doesn't really feel like it. Just been kind of rolling through it. So again, we got 40 live viewers here with us. Let me take a look. Let's see what we got for likes here. So you got anything else for the people here before we head out on our Wednesday show?
Yeah, I see our guy Matt in the chat. Shout out to Matt. Obviously, we're going to have him on the show at some point in this season for sure. One of the best volume bettors out there. Very fun to be back talking NFL here. We appreciate all you guys that joined us. See, Flan Fam asked, will Jacobs be better than Aaron Jones? I'm scared of our running back situation. I personally think he will be. I think he's a little bit less versatile, right? Jones will give you that slight edge in the pass catching game. But I think Josh Jacobs, in terms of all around runners, in terms of, like you said, between the tackle, goal line efficiency, I think Jacobs is going to be very good. Now you add in the fact that there's a lot of dangerous weapons on this team. It's going to be a play action heavy team. Jacobs saw the third most stacked boxes of any running back in the league last year, right? Every team goes in knowing they're going to try to run the ball. They don't have a quarterback that can throw it more than 15 yards. They have no choice. So now he's going from stack box city to a lot of open running lanes, more opportunities, and volume, most importantly. So I trust the talent with Jacobs. Obviously, not the best efficiency numbers last year, but it's important to add in that context of those stacked boxes and those teams really knowing what the opposing game plan was going to be. So I'm excited to see Jacobs. We both got him on some fantasy teams this year as well, which is always good. But yeah, outside of the answering those questions, I do have another prop released for these two games. It's over in the 4for4 Discord. We're running out of time. $10 first month. You can sign up for that right now. The code is over on Twitter. Two missed prices so far on unders on guys that I think they were a little aggressive on based on name value to start the season. So if you do want another Thursday, Friday prop from me, I do have one posted in the 4for4 Discord and in my article, which I hit submit to 1 minute before we went live. So that'll be out soon as well if you want to check out the article.
Beautiful. We're at 19 likes. Let's get a couple more. Get us up to over 20 at least, 20, 25 in there. We still got 35 of you guys in here. There's that. I will be, like I said, I try to post all my stuff over on Action as well for the show, so it's easier for me to track the NFL ones as well. We're going to have a lot of free plays on the show, guys. We're also going to be having a lot of stuff for you guys, whether it be articles and stuff like that throughout the year. So make sure you're following over on Twitter. And having the notification bell on over here on YouTube, because like I said, 3 times a week. Sometimes we might go more if we got a lot of stuff to say. But obviously got that. And yeah, it should be fun. I'm excited for this season. Still got MLB action still coming here. Don't worry, I still have it, but it's a little bit toned back a little bit. So thank you guys again for tuning in. We'll be back Friday. Make sure you set your schedules, guys. Friday at noon Central Time, 1 Eastern. We'll be going live here on the channel. That is our biggest show. I mean, that is the show that usually triples our viewership in there. We usually get a lot of you guys in here because we're going to answer everything. It's usually like an hour 20-minute show, getting all your questions, ton of action, right? I think it's 12 games to talk about. Obviously, none of the stuff for Monday night or Sunday night usually, but a lot of stuff to talk about here. It should be a fun show. Again, if you haven't been in here with us on a Friday show, make sure you got your questions before you come in, because there's going to be a lot of information coming out and in a very short period of time. So thank you guys so much for tuning in again. Hit that like button on your way out. We'll be back on Friday, noon Eastern, or 1 Eastern, noon Central here on the channel. So thank you guys so much. We'll see you Friday. Have a good one, guys.